Clubhouse. 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 Thank you. Clubhouse. Clubhouse. Thank you. Clubhouse. 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 Thank you. The Kantian Categorical Imperative. No. The Kantian Categorical Imperative. No. Why am I going up at the end? It's like a commercial. Categorical Imperative. Out now. Does anyone know what the categorical imperative is? What? You don't? Lordy Lou. A lot of people have been giving me crap for the Christina episode. And I think the common sort of criticism is, how would you like it if someone did that to your wife? And I'll be like, yeah, that'd be upsetting to me. You know, perhaps that person's intention was to upset me. But it's more than that. I don't see the episode about Christina as me having a go at her or, doing anything really malicious. I was having a chat with Christina because her husband shut me out and tried to destroy my life. So I figured that I'll make an episode devoted to the issues that I have with her husband and talk about those issues as if I was having a conversation with Christina. That's where I came from, right? That's my perspective. And there's this philosophical notion called the categorical imperative that says that whatever action for something to be ethical, you have to be able to apply it as a universal, basically. So if you do something that you think is good, right? The challenge is that the question would be, would you be comfortable with everyone doing what you do as a universal, right? Would you be happy to live in a world where everyone makes a podcast about someone's wife because they're concerned about the actions of their husband? Fuck yeah, man. Oh my God, that would be paradise on earth. Take me there. That sounds like Sweden. Nah. I don't know if they communicate well in Sweden. Maybe Norway. They're very intelligent in Norway. It's the categorical imperative. Yeah, it's me making the episode, talking to Christina might be a bit cringy, might be a bit confronting, but essentially the content of the podcast is about issues that I'm having with her husband that her husband refuses to acknowledge. But far more than that, her husband is surrounded by people that affirm his actions. And what were his actions? His actions led to me being arrested and hospitalized because he doesn't know how to communicate. Saeed lost hundreds of thousands of dollars of his deceased grandfather's money because he didn't understand an 8-hour meeting that I had with him in January. Or no, it was last year. I'm not too sure when it was. But yeah, I had an 8-hour meeting with him. I explained to him everything and the exit strategies for everything. And then he turned around and did something so horrible, and then his brother steals money from me, right? Thanks, Mark Toke, by the way. And then tells concrete tradies to come to my house, gives them my address so they can harass me because Majid doesn't know how to budget. Did you know that that made me suicidal? I almost killed myself. But that wasn't enough, right? Because I'd never kill myself because of my kids. And I couldn't kill you, Saeed, even though I really, 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 really would have been happy to live in a world where Saeed was dead, where Majid was dead, where Ami Maroon was dead, where my father, Majid Saeed Toke, was dead, where Amti Ghada was dead, where Danny was dead, where Ami Zuzu was dead. That was paradise to me. That was the devil that her husband put in my head. I've never been suicidal before. I've never had these disgusting thoughts. They put me in a house with my father, expecting me to apologize to the biggest monster in the world. And they refused to bear the consequences. Christina's probably sitting in her shack, in her poorly built, rushed granny flat, thinking, what the heck is going on? Why is Saeed going crazy? Why is Andrew doing all this crazy stuff? Because Saeed and his father and his brother and his uncle, my father, and Ammi Sharbel put so much pressure on me without even realizing, because they do not care. They just don't have the capacity to see or care, right? Their level of care has been thoroughly destroyed. They're numb. They don't know what pain is anymore because they've been through so much pain. That was what was revealed to me about Ami Maroon, right? That he had copped so much crap from Ami Sharbel and my dad that even the slightest issue with me would send him running. Ami Maroon's action is indicative of a person that has had so much bad stuff happen to him that he can't take a grain more. And I thought it was worthwhile me relaying my disappointment with Christina. And I mentioned Charlotte, Saeed's infant daughter. Absolutely, I mentioned her, but I wasn't. I didn't say anything bad to a baby. I meant what I said. All right. And let me reiterate why I mentioned Charlotte. Because Saeed, right? Charlotte is Saeed's infant daughter. She will grow up into a world, right, where trauma, pain, and suffering is normal, where drug addiction is normal, where substance abuse is normal, where violence is normal, where reacting to mental health issues with violence is a normal, understandable, reasonable response. These are all bad things that Charlotte is going to grow up. This is a bad world that Charlotte is going to grow up in. I'm warning Christina. I don't want Christina to divorce Saeed. But if my words compel her to divorce Saeed, then obviously the issue is with them, not me. Because how on earth can a 30-minute podcast break a relationship? And I've heard the fact that my actions are unhinged. My lord, do you know how hard it is to speak for half an hour? Do you know how well put together you need to be mentally to be able to put your thoughts into words and to sort of speak for half an hour just with thoughts that come off the top of your head? It's challenging, right? I believe the fact that I'm making podcasts out of the blue and it's full of a lot of malice at the front end, but that malice is dissipating, right? I don't regret the episode where I'm talking to Christina. I'm quite proud of that episode because it was very hard for me to make, because it's not, nice to talk about Saeed to his wife and to mention Charlotte, his daughter, in a podcast that it's not cynical, but there's a lot of bad words in there. Essentially, it was a plea to Christina. I absolutely am happy to apply that as a universal principle for people to plea through a podcast to your friend or cousin's wife because your friend and cousin is engaging in actions that's destructive to his family. The Kantian Categorical Imperative. It's a great rule of thumb. Think about it this way. Majid Maroon Toke, that imbecile, right? He stole my ute. He refused to give it back, right? And he hasn't paid for it. In his mind, what he's doing is correct because he's operating under some delusion that me offhandedly mentioning that if Happy Lion goes well, he doesn't have to pay for the ute. He grappled on to that offhanded statement, to that casual sort of like comment that I made probably when I was high as some gospel truth. Imagine if everyone did that. Imagine if everyone just stole someone else's ute. We wouldn't really live in a happy world, would we? Imagine if everyone calls the police on their cousin when all their cousin needs is a chat, some affirmation, and a cuddle. Imagine living in that world. I lived in that world, and it was hell. I had the police come to my house 12 times. And what good did it do that family, by the way, in the end? Right? That's that categorical imperative in real life, right? So they were happy to engage in their own actions that they thought was reasonable and ethical, right? But it obviously has a consequence. I'm a human being that is their cousin. I know where they live. I know their family members. I know everyone in their life. What the hell is wrong with them? And I have a voice. Gee whiz. Part of the reason why I forgave Zulzul is simply because he owned up to what he did. He spoke to me. Just hearing him, hearing his words, having a chat with him, understanding him, loving him, empathizing with him, right? Seeing him, hearing his voice, seeing his body language, looking at his eyes. All this was good. All this was great. Why did my father run away like a coward? Imagine that as a categorical imperative. Imagine if every father runs away from their children when their children begin to exhibit behavior that's inconvenient for the father. What kind of world will we live in? Well, I already know. I live in this world, right? It's a world full of people that shove condoms full of ecstasy pills up their ass, marrying someone and having a baby, thinking that their shit smells like roses. It's Majid who suffers from significant mental health issues, depression and anxiety, certainly, and significant drug addiction, cocaine, and sex addiction. Topless waitresses, prostitutes on his WhatsApp group. Right? That's what happens when fathers don't care about their children, right? And Saeed was exhibiting behaviors that I found extraordinarily concerning given what just happened, right? So I thought back to when all that stress was happening to Saeed and how often he went to Mudgee, right? And I understand for him that's like a sanctuary, quote unquote, but he's very, very young. For him to have a place that's 4 hours away for him to go to so regularly with an infant daughter and a newlywed wife is concerning because that pattern is going to continue for the rest of his life. And I want to warn his wife now before those behaviors begin to really, really take root and destroy their lives. I do not believe that Ami Maroon and Marta Rosa had a happy life by any means. The fact that they think that they did is absolutely absurd. Right? Their life was full of violence and vileness. That's why they couldn't take care of Sitti. Right? How many times did Ami Sharbel come over to bash Marta Rosa and Ami Maroon? Oh, actually, no, just Marta Rosa. Ami Sharbe would never put a finger on Ami Maroon. And the problem with Ami Maroon, again, categorical imperative. Do you want to live in the world where it's a universal that your brother hits your wife and you do nothing? Because that's what Ami Maroon did. Nothing. Ami Sharbe came back like weeks later, just casually, and they just let him in. They let the wolf that bashed Marta Rosa back in proudly. And they did do that proudly. Because I think for them, somehow that was a good Christian thing to do. But that's horrid. That's not what the good Christian thing is to do. The good Christian thing to do would be to figure out what is compelling Charlie to be so violent and to fix that. Not to ignore it and pretend that things are good when they're not. All that my uncle Maroon revealed about himself is he is just an aloof character. And I genuinely don't have any respect for him at all. I have a grain of respect for Ami Zuzul, but that's mostly because I feel sorry for him. I wouldn't apply any of my family's actions as a universal rule. Nothing that they did sort of meets that for me. And for me, my only rule was don't be violent, right? The worst thing that I did was send an audio message saying that Sandy was trashy and that she was topless in front of me and Majid. And she got sort of passed around at Tanurin, right? And by the way, again, universal principle, definitely, right? Man or woman. And by the way, Ami Sharbel agrees with me. He thinks that you should bash women just as easily as you bash men. Now, I don't agree with that. That's disgusting. But anything you have to say to a man, you could say to a woman. So if I'm going to call, Majid, my first cousin, a cocaine, addict and a junkie and this, and that, well, I'm going to have to, say what I need to say to his sister, who I believe embodies the same destructive attitudes as Majid, right? It's just destructive in a different way, right? I find Sandy's treatment of her best friend, Joelle, as disgusting, right? And Sandy treats Joel like Majid treats his second cousin Yusuf, right? Very much condescending, right? Mean-spirited, teasing, right? Downplaying, reducing, their friend. Sandy's a horrible friend and an empty-headed, silly little girl, essentially, like her brother Majid. In my opinion, it was important for me to kind of poke at Sandy just a little bit, not too much, because I don't really know her, but she's indicative of the wider problem as well, you know? Um, and there's this unfair kind of dynamic between, Batami and Bathamti Nawal, that Sandy is somehow good, right? And honorable and respectful. And perhaps Jessica, Joanne, and Justine, her first cousins, are not, right? That's the dynamic. It's for them, it's a zero-sum game. It's like, yeah, one person has to be good, but then the other person has to be bad, and I find that so toxic. Uh, the whole point of, me mentioning Sandy and family members specifically is to humble family members and to sort of make the case that no one's, shit smells like, everyone's shit stinks. No one's shit smells like roses, right? We're all imperfect. We all have issues, Sandy, might be a bit too willing to drink alcohol. She's too keen, to hit the bottle at family events, right? And then you have Jessica and Joanne, who are almost at the opposite sides of the spectrum, who don't drink at all and are noticeably kind of uncomfortable, right? And I think they both embody two sides of two extremes, um, and it's worthwhile for both families to sort of like look at each other and sort of see that they can really help each other. So, for example, Joanne can teach Sandy to temper her alcoholism, and Sandy can help Joanne get a little bit out of her comfort zone, and be more social. But Joanne's been more social. She's a fantastic person and a great mum. Um, and it's the same, with her sister. They've been great, and I think that they haven't received enough um, positive reinforcement, in my opinion. They've been maligned far too often for far too long and unfairly. They're amazing women that are shining examples in the Lebanese Maronite community of people that have been through hell, right? And are dealing with massive handicaps. And for them to come, from behind and sort of lead the family as being the first in the family to be married and have kids, my God, my hat's off to Joanne and Jessica. They're killing it, right? Both of them were married before Saeed, right? They were married before me. They were the first people in Bat Saeed, right, of my grandfather's sort of kids and grandkids to get married. First it was Joanne, then me, then Jessica, then Saeed. And Joanne had an amazing, legendary wedding. Uh, Jessica had a great wedding, but even she'd agree that Joanne's was better because I think Joanne's was bigger, and I think Jessica was having hers around COVID or something. But yeah, Joanne had a spectacular wedding that I didn't go to because I was in Vietnam. But I was across the world, right? And I heard rumblings of how great that wedding was, right? Joanne should be more proud of herself. I mean, I'm certainly so proud of her and what she's accomplished and her beautiful kids. I forgot that her second kid's name. I just, yeah, Marud's just too lovely and beautiful. God, his blue eyes and his curly hair. Um, yeah, man. Uh, that family's done great things and they ought to be respected. And by the way, that's not to say that my Uncle Maroon's family isn't great, because he's not. honestly, after what he did in the last year, it's proof that, there's something fundamentally wrong with Ami Maroon and that family, the way that they've been treating other family members. And the fact that they're so eager, they were so quick to seek the advice of bad people, really concerned me. Because Hamti Nawal and that side of the family were always on the fence. They didn't leap into any camp straight away because you shouldn't, right? Family members should really always just be on the fence. All family members should just sit on the same gosh darn fence. It's family. We're all supposed to be united in the one goal. But it never seemed like that with me. It always seemed like family that disliked other family members. And the disgusting vile that was perpetuated by Auntie Rada, what an absolute witch Auntie Rada turned out to be. Just perpetuating those rumors and issues and negativity between family members. Justine left the family to be with her partner. And I don't want to go too deep into that because it's not my business and it's personal. But what I want to say is that, she found a partner, and I think he's Muslim, which is fucking fine. God, if my family has an issue with having relationships with people of the Muslim faith, they really need to look at themselves in the mirror. My God, the most immoral people the most immoral people that I know are the ones that are the most eager to judge other people. Auntie Rada was so malicious in relation to her niece, her youngest niece, being dissatisfied with her abusive family. Because essentially that's what it was, that Justine found someone that gave her a respite, from all the family issues. And good on her, I can't wait to meet the guy. I'm sure he's a better, more moral, upstanding person than Ami Maroon, Ami Sharbel, my father, Ami Zuzu, who abandoned his kids in France because of a bet that he made with my father. Faustian bargain, my God. The Faustian bargain, and he didn't even get anything. Ugh. Whoever Justine chooses to make a partner, I'm sure, is a good, honourable person. Full stop. And essentially that's all that ever matters. I stopped caring so much about specific denominations and religions when I realized that the worst people that I knew were also Maronites. Ammi Sharbel is the most immoral person I know. My father is the most immoral person that I know. And they're also Maronites. I know plenty of Muslims that are far more moral and ethical than my Uncle Maroon. That are just as moral and ethical and upstanding and beautiful as just Auntie Hannah and Halim. I've met them. Nothing wrong with them. The hell demons do you have in your head? I suggest if you have an issue with Muslim people, then you should sort of consider what it means to be a Christian and what our duty is to be a Christian. It's not about hate. For me, it's about understanding. That's why I'm so keen on getting this bloody mediation behind me. And one last note on my boy, Citizen X Triple A. you're getting better at writing, which is excellent. Um, are you proofreading what you write? Because the grammar is excellent. You're killing it, man. You're getting way, way better. Um, there's one point that you made about um, the fact that I'm making it harder for them, for my family to have a mediation because I keep gouging at their wounds. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm poking them at their wounds. Yes, yes. Right, because those wounds haven't healed. You get me? I know it's uncomfortable and it seems like mean what I'm doing, but the issues that I'm raising with my aunts and uncles are issues that they have not resolved, right? Citizen X888 was making the case that their wounds had healed and it had scarred, and I'm sort of poking at their scars. So from my perspective, the wounds have not healed. They've actually festered. And mediation is my family's opportunity to dress those wounds, to clean those wounds, to put iodine and disinfectant in the wounds, right? And to dress the wounds properly, right? That's what my family has not done. Whenever there's a wound, that person is attacked for having a wound, like me, you see? Because I was kind of expressing my pain and hurt, right? My wounds. And the reaction was stop complaining. Don't worry about it. It's just a wound. It'll heal on its own. No, no, it won't. It's not what that's not what a psychological sort of wound is. Let's just say it actually doesn't heal on its own. It's what I found is the things that you think you've actually resolved, right? The things that you think have been resolved because enough time has passed hasn't actually been resolved, because as soon as you mention that thing, what happens? Everyone falls apart, right? Because they hadn't actually fixed the problem. They ignored the problem and pretended it wasn't there. But that problem keeps confronting Ammi Maroon, Ammi Sharbel, my dad, Ammi Zuzu, Ammi Tone, Amti Nawal, Amti Gada. Like, why does this bad stuff keep happening to me? It must be Andrew. No, bad stuff keeps happening to you because you don't fix your problems. You just keep perpetuating it. I don't care how many marriages happen in the family. I don't care how many Charlottes Christina spits out of her. Right? It's not going to change the fact that the family has significant issues that they have failed to address, and it's spilled out into the public multiple times. Whenever the police get involved, that's when your family problems spill out into the public. And they've spilled out into the public. So much so that you cannot ignore it. And I'd imagine that my family's upset at me because they just want to ignore it. But it pains me because I don't hide. I want to fix. I love fixing. I'm a fixer. I'm a seeker. Constantly seeking the answers to the questions that I put to life. This one's like, how do I fix generational trauma? Podcast, mediation at St. Charbel's or Our Lady of Lebanon is a good start, in my opinion. You know, and by the way, tell me in the comments what you think my family is doing to resolve the issues. Like, what had they been doing in the past? to resolve the issues. Because to me, everything that they did was to just pretend that there was no issue. You know, that Amishad, my dad brought Amtirada here so she can dress up 17 Villiers Street so they could pretend that everything was okay. And their father wasn't rolling in his grave, spinning in his grave since he passed away. Just mad with how the family treated his legacy once he passed away. So consider the Kantian Categorical Imperative. Ugh. And consider your relationship with your family. And if there are any issues that you do have with your family, don't ignore them. Just have a chat. You know, find that person in your family, in your extended family, that can hear you, can listen to you, can understand you, and help you sort of navigate resolving the issues with your family, right? It shouldn't be the whole conflict resolution. Let's just say with our family shouldn't really ever be just forgive him and forget. Should always be, okay, why did this happen? How can we prevent this from happening again? And that's something that no one in my family has ever said or done or cared to do. Just pretend there's no problem and then move on. Nah, I don't think that's the best way forward. I'm about moving forward. So come on, let's get on it. All right. Love ya. Bye.